This is a breaking update from 9 News.
Good afternoon. A federal court defamation case has found Brittany Higgins was raped in Parliament House in 2019 by Bruce Lehrmann. The findings handed down by Justice Michael Lee as he dismissed Lehrmann's claim that he had been defamed by Network 10 and Lisa Wilkinson. Let's go live to Ruth Wynne-Williams, who is standing by for us outside the federal court. Ruth, this has been a very lengthy judgment in the last 2 hours, 3 hours that we've been listening to. Talk us through how the judge has come to this decision.
Well, Davina, essentially it all came down to that 2019 night that ended at Parliament House, 40 minutes, during which time Justice Michael Lee says that when it comes to a civil case here, that it very much amounts to looking likely that Brittany Higgins was raped on that night in Parliament House. He was at great pains today to stress that there were inconsistencies in the evidence of all parties here today, but he did zero in quite hard on Bruce Lehrmann, on the consistencies of Lehrmann's evidence about that night, about how much Brittany Higgins consumed that night, about how much alcohol he knew Brittany Higgins consumed that night, over how he responded when Brittany Higgins was unable to protest at his sexual advances inside that ministerial office in Parliament House. He hit out at all sides tonight. Today he hit out at lawyers for Network 10, even though they successfully fended off. Davina, we are just seeing some people are starting to emerge. We know Bruce Lehrmann sat and listened. He's been up there in court today. He didn't react. We are seeing right now Bruce Lehrmann is coming out of court, Davina, while Michael Lee was making these assessments of his character in court today. Bruce Lehrmann didn't react. He took notes the whole time. He looked down at his phone, and that is despite Michael Lee describing him as having escaped the lion's den during his own criminal trial in the ACT and making the mistake, Davina, of coming back to court. You remember that he brought these defamation proceedings against Network 10, against Network 10's star presenter Lisa Wilkinson. He brought these proceedings himself. He brought the spotlight back on his own actions, and today in front of a defamation trial that has gone on for just so many months, 5 weeks in court. It was paused over the Christmas break, Davina, and then it came back to court. But Bruce Lehrmann today sat and listened to Justice Michael Lee sum up his actions and say that in fact it does look likely that Brittany Higgins, that her testimony was true and that she was raped on that night in 2019 in Parliament House.
Okay, we are watching this
live. On that,
Sorry, Ruth, we're watching the media scrum that is moving down the street. We've got a few different camera angles coming here where Mr Lehrmann is saying nothing. There are lots of reporters firing questions at him at the moment. There was a brief pause as they stood at the doors of the court there, so whether something may have been said there, we'll check back in with our reporters on the ground there. But Ruth, as you mentioned, this was a case that Bruce Lehrmann brought to the court. This was the risk that he took, that we were airing the dirty laundry and that a judge could potentially make a ruling on something that a criminal court wasn't able to do. The judge didn't have to look at the criminal balance of a case where you have to prove it beyond reasonable doubt. The judge in this case just simply had to look at what was the likely probability. And Ruth, from what we heard in the court, was the judge try and reconstruct what was probably the most likely series of events that took place in March 2019 in Parliament House. And he very much found that it is highly likely and that Brittany Higgins was raped in Parliament House by Bruce Lehrmann.
Yeah, Davina, he did point to a few inconsistencies in Brittany Higgins' own evidence as well today. Particularly, he pointed to that photograph, that very much discussed photograph that she claimed showed a bruise on her leg after her interaction with Bruce Lehrmann inside Parliament House. Today, Justice Lee said he doesn't believe that bruise, that photo of that bruise, was an accurate account of what happened that night, but he did say that he does believe that Bruce Lehrmann ignored Brittany Higgins pushing back on what was going on in the office that night, that he does believe sexual contact did occur during that time, but that Bruce Lehrmann essentially ignored Brittany Higgins trying to push back on him that night. He did talk about Brittany Higgins and her testimony. And he did say that the way she acted in those weeks in the days following that 2019 incident, that her actions then were consistent with a sexual assault survivor. He did believe that the way she acted, although he did criticise her going on to, take book deals and get on the public speaking circuit. But here is some of what Justice Lee had to say inside court today. He has fired at all sides in this case. Network 10's lawyers didn't escape a smack either, despite winning today.
My conclusion on rape: Miss Higgins raped. Mr. Lehrmann raped Miss Higgins. I hasten to stress this is a finding on the balance of probability.
Ruth, the comments from the judge were extraordinary, that Lehrmann told untruths that were all over the place, and that he told that he had effectively couldn't accept anything that Mr. Lehrmann had said through the course of this hearing. There were criticisms as well of Brittany Higgins, of Lisa Wilkinson, of Network 10, but effectively 10 winning this case. They have been found that interview of the project that aired in 2021 did not defame Bruce Lehrmann, because a judge in a federal court has found Bruce Lehrmann raped Brittany Higgins in Parliament House in 2019. Ruth, we're going to leave it there. Thank you very much. We are waiting for reaction from outside the court. We will have live updates across the afternoon. The afternoon news coming up at 4 o'clock. And of course, a full wrap of the day's news and events, 9 News tonight at 6. I'm Davina Smith. Thanks for your company. We'll see you soon.